Attorney General, I would say that's pressure that shouldn't be laid. And then the Canadian public went, he's got real nice hair though. So what are you gonna do? Like, somebody was saying to me yesterday, I got a bit of hate mail yesterday, which I thought was funny. It's like, I'm on vacation. I could not be doing this. I could say, listen, it's been years since I've taken a week off and not be doing this. But there's a lot of important news, and I feel like it's important to tell you about it. So I do it. And I like doing it, so I do it. It's not about that. But I got hate mail yesterday. One was saying, stop moving this. Sorry. It's kind of not perfect. But another was saying you have to be serious. And like in a situation like this, where the government is kicking the can down the road and just not scheduling a hearing, and pretty much they're going to get away with it. What else are you supposed to do but like throw your hands up and say, okay, and if I say these people are doing this wrong and they should blah 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 blah. Well, I have said that, and what's going to happen? Nothing. I could say it real serious. I could say it ha 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 because look at what they've done over and over and over again. The model just keeps repeating. So there are a lot of Canadians who either support this or who aren't willing to do anything in opposition of this, not even willing to look at this as a real thing that's happening, right? The violation of parliamentary supremacy is a big deal. Justin Trudeau is just trying to overturn the Magna Carta, right? Like, we just want to silence everybody who disagrees with us because they're wrong and we're right. Like, that's what they're doing. And Canadians are collectively shrugging. Not just Canadians, the entire world. So my response to that is, we see a freight train coming, you and me together. We're standing here and we see a freight train, and there's a whole bunch of people in the building right over there that the freight train is just going to smash into. Okay, it's going to smash into the building. And we've told everybody there's a freight train coming and it's going to smash into your building here. You should probably leave. And they didn't leave. So, okay, I'm being told to stand in front of the freight train and stop it. Do you think that I'm going to be able to stop it? Even if I know that there's a disaster going to happen, am I going to be able to stop the freight train? Both hands, right? I really want to. I see the disaster. It's happening in front of me. I'm standing in front of the freight train. Am I going to stop the freight train? Is this something that I can do? Now, if everybody comes out of the building and we all stand together, are we going to stop the freight train? No, get the heck out of the way of the freight train, you morons, right? So I take... the whole point of this show initially was to be kind of funny, was to be kind of a wry take on, like, this is this person's job, and this is what they said. That's the joke, but a bump ching, right? Like, that's it. That's all this was supposed to be. And now I pick up stories that are serious, but it's so beyond... It's beyond serious to parody. It's beyond serious to, like, we're living in V for Vendetta, but it's worse, right? The fingermen are worse. The restrictions are worse, right? We don't have a guy in a Guy Fawkes mask, but the seriousness of the situation needs somebody like Colbert and Stewart, when they were funny, to poke holes in it. Because if I were to sit here and be serious the whole time, sobbing with Mark for an hour is not going to work. It's just not going to work, and I wouldn't do it. So sorry that it's not a serious 1 hour long your country is burning and we all need to mobilize. But the fact is as well, if I did that, if I said, oh, we all need to mobilize and we all need to do this and we all need to do that, it would fall on deaf ears. It wouldn't be an entertaining show. It would be me preaching to a ridiculous group of people who don't see the freight train for what it is, because it is a freight train. And one person standing in front of it to stop it is probably the best idea, is just to get out of the way, right? Get far out of the way. Anyway, carrying back on with the news. Hate mail is fine. I don't have a problem with hate mail. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I am a human person and I do mess things up. I get things wrong. I say things I shouldn't say. I say them in ways I shouldn't say. And sometimes I have to clarify. Sometimes I have to say sorry, and that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But fundamentally, if you get angry at me because I'm trying to make light of this, thinking that I'm not taking it serious, have you been watching my show? Like, seriously, holy cow. Some people. Goodness me. Anyway, carrying back on. Let's get back into it. Minister Syjan, how is he still a minister? Ha ha ha. How is he still a minister? I'll go tell Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, you should probably remove the incompetent ministers that you've got. Why? Because they're incompetent. All of them. Not just this one. All of the incompetent ministers. The health minister who has no health background, like that one. The finance minister who's a Rhodes Scholar in journalism, that one too. How about Harjeet, who just keeps lying to us, right? Oh, would you like me to be more serious? Frustrating. Okay? Harjit Sajjan says, Minister Sajjan has been caught, again, misleading Canadians and covering up the truth. It's clear the minister created a position and hired his former co-worker who was previously found guilty of 2 counts of misconduct. Yeah, he was a police... Sajjan directed military to provide him with an aid, and he ended up being a person who was working for a police... Hold on. I'll give you the whole story because I want to be as clear as possible here. All right, here's the synopsis. Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan told the military to create a position eventually filled by a reserve officer from his old unit who had been ordered suspended from the Vancouver police for an appropriate relationship with a subordinate, according to a newly released briefing notes. Sajjan also wanted the military to upgrade the position less than 2 months after Major General McCullough was hired because the minister wanted even more support in his home riding in Vancouver, according to the notes, though that request did not become a reality. So he's misleading Canadians. He's hiring people who've had sordid, spotty pasts when his job is specifically to get rid of the sexism and sexual misconduct in the military. He's hiring people who've been accused of said thing in the police. Kind of crazy, right? Here's power and politics. Sajjan says, I'm not here to judge myself. I let others and Canadians judge me for the actions we've taken, says Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan, when asked if he is proud of his record on addressing sexual misconduct in the Canadian military. Yeah, and the clip is interesting. I'm not going to show it right now, but it's an interesting little clip highlighting minister. They don't feel bad about this, and you almost can't feel bad about this. Like, when you're in public life, 50% of people are going to disagree with you vehemently, right? There's going to be like 10%, 5 to 10% that are going to disagree with you to the point of like protesting or threatening, like backhandedly threatening, I guess. There are going to be people who really disagree with you. So when you make a decision in a leadership position like this, you kind of just walk through it, right? And sorry, just hold on a second. Can't find my mouse. And Sajjan understands that even in this minority government, the Liberals are strong because they've got the one Green, and they've got the Elizabeth May Liberal Green, and they've got enough dance partners to push through their agenda. So they're not really worried about this. So Sajjan is going to make his decision, not do well at his job, not do his job by some people's definition, and skirt through with no problems at all. And he's not going to be sad about people who disagree with him, because going into this, he knew that 50% were going to disagree, maybe more, probably more. So he knew that, right? Same with Doug Ford. Same with any of these people. Any of these people understand any decision I make is going to be hated, and that hate is going to be exacerbated by the press. It just is. It just is. So, like, people in public life understand this. Harjit Sajjan gets that. He doesn't care if Justin Trudeau doesn't care, and Justin Trudeau doesn't care. Okay? The PBO says the federal budget will not be balanced until at least 2070. Right. From the Canadian Taxpayer Federation says Ottawa has a spending problem. Franco has more details for me in this short Q&A. So Franconomics, says that, has an interview on this. This is a news station, I believe, Bridge City News, Lethbridge, Alberta. And I thought, that's an interesting little news station. There was a not cyber attack yesterday, but I think that it's interesting to note. Yesterday, I think it's funny that the Rainbow 1130 News continues with City News. It's the season of rainbows, I suppose. Cyber attack not to blame for worldwide online outages. BMO was having problems yesterday in a bunch of different banks, RBC as well. But it was the DNS company, and I can't, Acme. Acme is the DNS company. And the DNS company is the company that changes the DNS number of your website to a typable thing. Like if your website is canadapoly.com and the number of the website, or the IP number of the website is whatever the number of the website is. If you type in Canada Poly, it matches the IP to the Canada Poly, the number to the Canada Poly name. So if that doesn't work, then your website doesn't work, right? Nobody can get to it. So very interesting situation. They said it wasn't a cyber attack. It was just a misconfiguration. We've fixed it now and everything should be fine. It's an interesting single point of failure, don't you think? Like, I hope I hope that doesn't go down. Like, that would be really bad if that went down, generally, right? Like, not so good. Not so good. Anyway, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. I just think it's a big kind of worldwide thing, and it impacted Canadian banks, so I wanted to let you know that happened. Seems to be fixed now. Yay. Liberal Party, talking about Election 44, Liberal Party appoints regional election campaign directors. Oh, yay, goody. We've got an election on the horizon. I think I realized why the election as well. I've been talking about, why does Trudeau want an election? He's got basically control of the parliament. An election represents risk to him because he's not at risk right now. He's got years left to push through his agenda. He's got free speech to quell, right? C10, C36 he wants to get through. But he could reintroduce those in an election if they got killed by an election. And they would die on paper because they're in the Senate right now. They would die. The bill would be null and void because the government that started it is no longer. So the Senate doesn't need to look at it anymore. But Justin Trudeau could easily reintroduce that, and Guilbeault isn't the linchpin. It could be any heritage minister, any minister who's controlled, Lametti, right? Catherine McKenna. No, she's not running again. But any of them, really, they could introduce the legislation for free speech. But you know what also dies if the election happens? The China Commission. The Parliamentary Commission on China, right? And I think that's why. I think that's the reason why. Looking through this, because they're the commission that's demanding the documents. They're the only people who are demanding accountability. Not even the opposition is demanding accountability from Trudeau. The opposition is trying to out-pander Trudeau. We'll look at that in just a minute. But nobody is demanding actual documented accountability other than that committee. And that's the reason that Trudeau wants an election. And he may even call it in August. He may even. It just kind of clicked into place. Why? Because they're going to keep calling for these papers. They're going to keep coming for it. And if he calls an election and then he wins, then the board's flipped. And no parliamentary commission, no parliamentary China commission, right? And so all of the opposition would have to get together. And if there was a majority, no China commission at all. Nobody to question Trudeau. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. That's why. Click, light bulb just went off. That's why. That's it. That's why he wants an election. And the bugger. And the thing is, the problem with this is, all of the newspapers are basically like, oh yeah, it's a foregone conclusion that Trudeau will get a majority. If Trudeau gets a majority, and I don't think it'll be, I've said before that I have serious issues with the legitimacy of our elections after watching the 2020 presidential election. So I don't think that it will be legit. What is legit? What is a legit election these days? If Biden is the POTUS, right? A legit election is being able to take control of the government and govern with the support of the bureaucracy. I think that's basically it. That's the legit government. That's it. There are no requirements for a straight up election. There are no requirements to advertise in good faith. There are no requirements to answer questions. There are no requirements, anything like that. If you can get installed and get everybody to play the game, the bureaucracy, the everything, you can even take the speaker to court and say, you know what, this whole parliamentary thing, parliamentary supremacy, that doesn't work for us so much, Speaker. We want these papers kept under wraps, independent, or forever. And your whole system doesn't matter to us. These papers staying under wraps matters way more. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that I'm pretty confident in that for right now. Based on what I know. Things could change based on what I know. Right now, that sounds good. Ian Rankin. Did you know that Scott Moe killed somebody in a car? Right? I didn't know this. I found out about this today. It's wild, but Ian Rankin apparently drove drunk the other day. So Ian Rankin, Liberal Premier of Nova Scotia, is found out to be driving drunk. And then I just found out that the Premier of Saskatchewan killed somebody in 1997. That's wild, isn't it? I thought that was wild. Okay, Kristen Runworth says, Ian Rankin drove drunk and could have killed people, and that's fine, but a Liberal nominee takes boudoir photos and they slut-shame her into stepping aside. Gee, why don't women run for office? Huh. And here is Scott Moe's, dirty laundry. This week, nearly 3 decades after the crash, Moe finally apologized to Baylog's son after they became aware that the man who killed their mother was now the Premier of Saskatchewan. Isn't that... That's a head mess up, isn't it? So here's the Liberal candidate dropped for boudoir photos as party only allows nudity on Zoom. LOL. Right? There you go. So she can't be a Liberal because... well, actually, there's a little bit more to this story. First, I'll show you that the Scott Moe thing isn't more than a meme. Here's Diaz, the former, or the I guess the president of Unifor, I think that's Mr. Diaz. He says Scott Moe. This was published on October 8th, 2020. Scott Moe killed somebody, and I stood up for the rights of working people, and I spent more time in jail. As has been widely reported this week, Saskatchewan's premier was let go with a fine after a fatal crash in which a woman was killed in 1997. Not only that, his name was not released at the time, and the woman's son, then a teenager, did not find out for 23 years who was responsible for his mother's death. At the end of the whole thing, I think that's just a wild and crazy situation. At the end of the whole thing, he says, instead, Scott Moe's privilege let him skate free without consequences. I think that it's really interesting and a very, very big flip from the 1980s don't trust the establishment to this person's privilege that let him skate away from the responsibility of this, and not a broken system. It's not the lawyers and the courts and all of the system that we've built as a whatever society were. The system that we've built is not corrupt. It's his privilege that let him go. That's a mental inversion. That's not how it is. He's subject to the system. It's not his privilege that lets him skate outside the system. He's subject to a corrupt system. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? I might be wrong. But it seems odd to blame Scott Moe and his privilege for him killing a woman and then getting away with it with a slap on the wrist and a fine, right? Very, very interesting, right? So the former Dartmouth, and back to the Liberal candidate who is not allowed to be a Liberal candidate because of boudoir photos. This was an interesting turn as well. They wanted her to blame mental health issues, right? The former Dartmouth South candidate for the Liberals says the party dropped her from the ticket over boudoir photos she had already disclosed and asked her to lie by citing mental health concerns instead. I was asked to blame myself. So the killing people, just fine for Liberal premiers, or one Liberal premier. Or is Scott Moe Liberal? I don't know if he's a Liberal. Is he Conservative? No, he's Saskatchewan Party, right? Saskatchewan Party. Apologies. They've got their own party there. So Scott Moe, just fine, right? Rankin, he can drive drunk, but boudoir photos, no go for the Liberals. Interesting standards. The other part of this is it had already been disclosed, right? So this is for the Nova Scotia Liberals. This isn't for federal Liberals. But this had already been disclosed when she had put in her candidate application. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting, right? Provincial politics. Wild.